Hi, hello everyone. Welcome to the channel. I'm Cheryl and this is True Crime and Other Stuff. Thanks for being here where I like to bring you the facts about true crime, the missing, current events, or anything I find interesting or important. Today, this is part 2 of the Idaho 4 and the Gainesville Ripper Similarities.
The killer or killers of 5 college students may still be in the Gainesville area tonight.
We know that these homicides occurred in the early morning hours of Sunday, November 13th. Around noon, Moscow officers received a call of an unconscious person. Officers discovered the bodies of Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Madison Mogan, and Kaylee Goncalves inside the residence on King Road. The 4 were stabbed with a knife, but no weapon has been located at this time.
The latest victims were found inside the Gatorwood apartment. The bodies of a young man and a young woman were found at about 8:30 this morning.
Here's what they pieced together happened. The killer goes in there. Manny is asleep. He stabs Manny. That first blow wakes Manny up. Manny, we now know, put up a fight, and a really tough fight. And he lost that fight. He was stabbed to death.
Crime scenes. One was that the victims were displayed, kind of a taunt to police. Another was that the killer had used duct tape to restrain all the victims. A third was that the killer had used a screwdriver to get into doors in all of the apartments. A fourth one was that they're all near woods, which allowed the killer to get in without being noticed.
And the type of knife that they're talking about is the United States Marine Corps K-bar.
Like you had a wild animal, and you knew it was in your community, and it had struck at random places.
You almost sensed the presence of evil.
The 3-story home just steps away from campus is a split-level house with 3 floors, one entrance on the first floor, and a sliding back door allowing someone to also enter on the second level. After looking at public information and observing investigators here,
The investigators saw that whoever was doing this was coming in through the back door. What was beyond the back door in every case? The woods. And coming up out of the woods to these back doors, they saw he was going to sliding glass doors and using a screwdriver to pry them open.
Investigation itself were the leaks that were getting out to the media. Because there are certain elements about these cases that you have to keep close to the chest in order to ascertain who may be a viable suspect and who may not.
In fact, it was after that the families went to the police department and said, you've got to clean this up.
A lot of media reports that have been issued have damaged our homicide investigation. We've had to change our strategy from time to time based on information that has come out.
The police were under enormous pressure to solve this problem by making an arrest.
A person that became a person of interest to us was Ed Humphrey. We were getting a lot of tips focusing on him.
Police call Edward Humphrey the best suspect they have.
I remember when Ed Humphrey was arrested. When I saw him on the news footage, I remember thinking, there's the son of a bitch, you know?
He's been in jail. The murders have stopped. So maybe they got the right guy.
of that bedroom number 2 on the second floor, if 2 victims were in there, maybe that's what explains why there would be copious amounts of blood on that floor. And of course, the 3rd floor, the 2 best friends who grew up together, Maddie Mogan and Kaylee Goncalves, would have been likely up there.
So we were able to take him into custody, detain him.
Edward Lewis Humphrey, 18-year-old, first-year University of Florida student, was arrested yesterday.
He looked out of it. He looked like he was drugged.
If there's a look for a serial killer, he was it.
He had these scars over his face.
He was in a really bad car accident and got all those scars from the car accident.
He suffers from bipolar mood disorder. He was manic at the time. He was off his lithium. And
They interrogated him for hours in that situation. And it's basically the result of that they say, well, gee, he's a suspect.
We're pretty scared of the guy.
He would listen to loud, heavy rock music and would go out for long periods at night.
Law enforcers continue to look for evidence that may link Humphrey to the 5 murders, most recently searching woods where Humphrey had been seen.
Arrest, but our sources within the FBI are saying that Brian Kohberger, again, 28 years old, he was highly educated, Terry. In fact, he had a master's degree in criminology from DeSales University there in Pennsylvania, but also attended Washington State University in Pullman, Washington, which is just less than 10 miles away here from Moscow.
Physical evidence at the crime scenes and have been asking for blood tests from criminal defendants and students in the Gainesville area.
Remember, the killer used dish soap and a towel to clean up the crime scenes, but he still left bodily fluids behind when technicians were able to analyze the semen found at the crime scene to figure out the killer's blood type.
Whoever had committed those rapes had type B blood. And they went to Ed Humphrey, and they took a sample of his blood, and his blood came back type A. That was a big problem.
But there were people on the task force who just could not let go of Humphrey's involvement.
And if they do really have the wrong guy behind bars now, that would mean a maniac is still out there.
Do you have any leads? Are we safe? The police were getting pressure from the public to do something.
Was it a serial killer or someone they knew? One of the nation's top criminal profilers, Dr. Casey Jordan, is weighing in.
You could have somebody who is a potential serial killer who has been thinking about doing something like this for a very long time. If the fantasy was fulfilled, then the fantasy will bloom even larger. And very often you're going to find a perpetrator who feels compelled to do it again.
But Dr. Jordan says another, perhaps stronger possibility, they were acquaintances. Could this have been a fellow student?
Statistically, it's most likely to be someone from that community. Most likely to be a fellow student, somebody who may have been in the house before or invited into the house even in those early morning hours, perhaps by one of the victims. We can't rule that out.
The use of a large knife, possibly a Rambo-style combat knife like this, is also telling.
We can't rule out the fact that there's a sexual nature to it. In criminology, we often talk about piquerism, the use of an assailant who is stabbing with a knife, if you will, as a substitute for sexual activity, sometimes because of their lack of ability to perform.
Wow.